Back into the roller coaster ride that is NACL. We are getting into our second matchup of the day. Elyssar taking on Gaimin Gladiators. Cookies, let's start with Elyssar. This is a team that they've impressed, and that's all there is to say. Like, there's nothing negative, at least yet, that they've done that you can talk about. It's just been roses so far.
Roses. Roses all the way. Thus far, they've lived up to every expectation. They've, for the most part, dominated. There have been some stretches of maybe a little bit of complacency because of how amazing they are now. Maybe, guys like Enrio and Alec, especially. Alec was a traffic cone in the last game. He wasn't doing much. But it didn't matter because Kento, he was hitting double aces and whatever. I mean, 10-2 on the entry, the best entry in the league right now at this juncture. Got a lot of good things going for them. And that might be their downfall because, there's a such thing as too much of a good thing. And if they're so good, that might make them bad.
Well, I'm sitting here wondering, are the other player stats not as good?
I missed you so much, CJ.
That was so stupid. I'm sorry. Continue,
Well, then,
please.
Let's just move on to Gaimin Gladiators then, because I got nothing for that one.
In the words of the great Parker and Tarot band Mackay, this is the Challenger League super team, apparently. Sure, he got clowned just a little bit, but as soon as he called them a super team, they really showed up and had great improvement to what we saw just one day earlier. Arrow, Beastly, Jolton, Quartz, and Sykes. Sure, might have said that it's sometimes a 4v5 with Bexdog in the mix inside the lobby, but I was quickly shut up because he came out and put on a phenomenal showing. Actually, the highest rated player on his team due to his consistency against the Aqualix loss. But as things stand, the big question marks on this roster are Quartz and Sykes. Where have they been? They've been struggling just a little bit, and they need to be involved today.
Well, Cookies, I can't wait now for your critical points to see if you can top yourself with that one.
Okay, so these were funnier. I think CDAP's cleaned them up a little. I was basically saying that
leave it to Connor to take the fun out of everything.
Of course.
Yeah, my bad.
Of course. But what I really want to talk about is, Kento is just, it's obvious, right? He's clearly playing at a level above everyone in this league at this juncture. It's clear as day.
Is it sustainable, though? Is it sustainable?
Exactly, Brim. I have 3 critical questions here.
Okay.
Can he keep it up? Was it because the teams you were playing against stink? And if he doesn't keep it up, what happens to this team?
Mm-hmm.
Because Alec kind of, I don't know, what happened to Alec last week, Connor? I wasn't there to watch.
Alec was struggling just a little bit. Kento got to show me a clip of Alex screaming, "I can't win a 1," and hitting his desk, but like in a funny, joking way. So the vibes were still high, but
yeah,
I'm sure when you have a player of the caliber of young Alec, he played in Pro League, did pretty well. Last time we saw him in CL in Stage 2, he was utterly dominant. I think he just has to get back into the swing of things, and hopefully this week comes through, because if they take each game this weekend one at a time, because they have an insanely difficult weekend. They have Gaimin Gladiators, One Shot, and Aerial Arise. All this weekend. 1 today, 2 tomorrow. An incredibly tough weekend. And they just need to take step by step by step. Don't get overwhelmed just one game at a time.
I predict that it's just Kento has stolen everyone else's kills, and that's why the stats are a little lower for them. Now, this is a team moving over to Gaimin Gladiators. Synergy. Look at this roster. If they can get it together, if they can get that synergy, once again, I've said it before for Aerial Arise. Kind of regret that now, but the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I agree completely, but Quartz and Sykes, I already mentioned that they were struggling just a little bit earlier on in the season. They haven't really been able to get a whole lot going, and against like a duo like Slimy Nick and Psychosis on Aqualix, completely shut down. On the roam, on the entry for attacks, completely dominated. But now you're going up against an even stronger duo in the form of Kento and young Alec, and that is a daunting task.
I agree, it's quite daunting. Because for this team, right? This team has a lot of hype, a lot like Elyssar has a lot of hype. And the only way for the Gaimin Gladiators to live up to that hype is if they play up to that hype. And yes, Quartz is a former pro, a recent former pro. And Sykes, we talked about he's so great, and he's Post Malone, and he's all this good stuff. At some point, we got to stop talking about it, and they got to be about it, Connor. And Arrow can't keep outshining those two. Arrow has like the best entry stats on the team. He's playing Jaeger. Maybe he should have Ash at this point if Sykes can't get it done.
Hey, I mean, Arrow also highest rated player in Challenger League last year with this team he's playing up against, but then he got dropped like a week later.
Exactly.
Revenge tour time.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like the teams are, yeah. That's I totally forgot about that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like it was so long ago. Baby. It was like damn near 8 months ago. But yes.
Well, hey, the revenge tours so far in CL have definitely been hit or miss. So who knows what's gonna happen? What I do know, Cookies, is surely these two teams can go to Border or Skyscraper or Bank, right? Surely. Oh well. Oh
no.
Okay.
No, that was actually one thing it's a lot about. It's the same thing I said about Ariel in the last map ban. I want to see the more established teams with vets, with the old heads, with the clouded people go to off maps, the newer map. But I guess we're not going to see at least 2 out of the 3 new maps because once again, it's Elyssar who's banning 2 of them. Where's that going to put us, Connor? Where's it going to put us?
We either get Oregon.
No.
Probably going to be Oregon, right?
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
This, I can get behind Chalet.
Yeah.
I can definitely get behind this. And for the side of Elyssar, Kenta was a pretty good Chalet player. He powers up on the LMG. But Arrow was also a very integral part of the investigation file, the past iteration of the Elyssar's roster on Chalet, especially in the early rounds. So maybe you'll know what a couple of things that are going on.
This is definitely, either way though, gotta be an entertaining map to have between these two teams. I mean, I'm sure once we see the predictions, I have a feeling, the safe bet would be LSR in this scenario. Yeah. But Cookies, Gaimin Gladiators versus LSR on Chalet is going to be a wild match.
It is. It's going to be so wild. And I'm still going to pick LSR. I was almost ready to switch, but I'm sick of doing that. Every time I switched, I've trolled myself, so I'm going to stick with what I got. I like LSR. I think they have what it takes. I think they have everything going for them. And even though I said that would potentially troll them, I don't think this will be the game that they slip up. They've got a lot of games they can slip up on this weekend, but this won't be the one. I think they win, and they deny Arrow of his revenge tour.
Well, we are guaranteed a good match here because since we all voted for LSR, we know that we've definitely bumped up the chance of Gaimin Gladiators winning. So we are going to have a crazy match. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of OT, but let's throw it to Lynx and Fellow right now. We are going to Chalet between these two teams.
Very much Brimstone, and I'm excited. Well, I've got a lot of energy going into this game for 2 reasons. 1, we had a great game to start off the day, and 2, I slammed an entire roll of sushi in between between then and now.
Nice.
So I'm feeling very good. But also, LSR versus Gaimin Gladiators, John. Now, one of the big issues we saw from Gaimin in the previous week, they were getting opening picked, like, a lot. And hey, that sucks, but at least if you're able to keep it together, get your trades, it works out. But we're going to Chalet, a map that, even though they're starting on the attack, that's the side you expect to do better. Once they get to the defense, if they're getting opening picked and they can't fight back, any advantage they gain in the first half is going to be lost.
Yeah, if we don't see that proper team play, especially against a team like Elyssar, where they really have everything on tight lock, basically, it's going to be a very challenging matchup for them, to say the least. I mean, there was a reason why we all expected Elyssar to win, because we knew that there's just a lot on the plate of Gaimin Gladiators, and they really have to step up. And we already know that Elyssar are bound to have that proper team play, that proper coordination, the ability to get those entries once again. So this really is the underdog story for Gaimin Gladiators right now, despite the fact that we really thought they would have a much better time here in this first stage.
That was a bit mean from Courts. I don't know if that was necessary. He said, GG, I hope you all lose. Come on, let's be a little more positive. Obviously, you don't want them to win, but be a little bit nicer. As if you aren't looking at the screen and you hear John say oof, and you're like, what was that? It was a Finka ban, which I believe a lot of people actually hypothesize seeing a lot more of going into CL, but an Aruni ban to respond. Now, that is not something, or a combination that I would have bet money on going into this.
I mean, Aruni very much in the meta. So is Finka. Not the worst idea on paper because she is just a staple. You see a lot of Castle in the meta right now, and Castle and Aruni just go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's such a strong way to have a lot of certain sightlines for the attack just non-existent anymore because of those Castle barricades. So now only having to deal with one of those players, that being the Castle, it does allow for more fluidity by the attack. So honestly, not a bad option. Still going to worry about the Wamai and Jaeger combination and the Castle itself, but with a Protector repick being a thing, I could probably imagine we're bound to see a Flores. So I'm going to deal with a lot of the shield positioning with that extra util. Probably not too big of an issue depending on what you bring in the table.
Well, we'll see what they end up bringing. Of course, as you said, attacker repick. Can't bet any money on that anymore. You could see this whole lineup change through the next 45 seconds. Like AQ tend to do. They just pick 5 random ops and then switch to their actual lineup as we get into the action phase. See some changes already. Quartz going to the Nomad, but by and large, the lineup they have right now is, it's fine. You'll get the job done, especially on Kitchen. With that Hibana, all you really need to do on this site is if you want to go from either Solar or Piano, whichever one side you want to go, at a bare minimum, you can half clear the map and usually get a lot of the job done. Just push the roamers back, either to Office if you're going from Solar, or Bedroom if you're going from Piano. You can usually make it work, though sometimes we'll see a team bring a Thermite to try and make opening that breach a little easier. Gaimin Gladiators will stick with the Hibana, and that does give them a lot more versatility for either way they want to take this.
Nomad on the board as well, so we've got some genuine flank watch. Maybe that could allow for more of a solar presence as well. You're not going to have to worry about that run out from Big Garage. You could just sit up on these windows as long as you want. Even the trench run out too can be denied, theoretically speaking. But what cannot be denied is the death of Giddy. That is instant for Arrow, as I could probably imagine for Elyssar. They were not expecting that instant aggression near Master, and that's already going to be a 5-on-4 favoring the Gladiators.
Yeah, that is a beautiful, well-coordinated play by Gaimin Gladiators right there to catch Giddy off guard, and really just kind of brilliant in its simplicity. 15 seconds in, somebody's probably sprinting in front of the bedroom window, and you just have to hit your shots after you catch them off guard. Somebody rotates in front of the bathroom window, though, but young Alec does not win his fight. A minute in, and Gaimin Gladiators have already dealt substantial damage to the roam presence by Elyssar upstairs. There's 2 left, so still some potential to get active, but this is going to be a tough one to come back from for round 1.
They've got the cutoff established as well in Trophy, so really the only fallback by Elyssar could most likely be heading all the way down and through Fireplace, and even then, that is a complete death trap in and of itself if someone's out on that double doorway, so really not many options left for Elyssar, and honestly, it looks like they're at least having the smoke of Kento playing here to die and just hoping they can prolong this inevitable top floor clear.
The desk talked about how well Kento has been playing on this new Elyssar roster with behind a shield with that FMG9. If all the players still alive right now, he's likely the one who can get active, take down one of these players on Solar Repel. Of course, it is difficult. 2 in front of him, 1 on Master Bedroom window. He's basically trapped, playing his life and then some right now. He only gets 1 as he takes down Beastly, but that was the hard breacher for Gaimin Gladiators, and Elyssar have still wasted a lot of time. So Enrio and Vivid need to be careful, but they have taken an important player off the board, but oh no, Vivid swings right in front of the trophy window, and this could be a 1v4 with us just barely reaching a minute left in the round. He's got to stay tucked in this corner if he wants to stay alive.
Really everything looking phenomenal for Gaimin Gladiators so far, and you don't even need that much of a hard breach presence when you're going in for a dining take. So long as you have that vertical, that's the site pressure completely gone, and you can still go in for an easy plant so long as you know where the last 2 defenders are.
We'll see if Gaimin Gladiators are able to do their work. They might not even need to. Arrow can win that one easily. There goes 1, but do not make that 2. You get the diffuser, but not Quartz, who did very well for himself in that round. But really, Gaimin Gladiators did overall as they set the pace and kept to it for all of the first round on Chalet.
And even if we didn't have, let's say, potentially Nomad getting that kill, it was just a trade. I mean, that still is a 4 versus 4. They have some vital information. They could probably get somebody to rotate around later on and still have that top floor clear, be relatively successful. Overall, that was just fantastic opening aggression by Gaimin Gladiators. They did a good job of gathering information, and once they had that man advantage, stacking up in every which way to make sure everything was accounted for. They had the time to wait for someone to go inside of West Main. They had people still pushing in from the top floor, working their way lower into Trophy Room. Everything was checked off on the list for Gaimin Gladiators, and really Once they got that 4v2 position and it was just, you know, a lurker kind of trying to fall back in the site, and of course the mute who was already low in HP kind of caught in that split area, there really wasn't much left on the table for Elyssar to take that round back.
A quickly jump sites moving across the first floor over to Bar and Gaming, which we'll see Elyssar bring that Jaeger, bring that Wamai to try and aid them on extending to the top floor. Sometimes we will see an Aruni on, well, not only this site, but other sites in general to aid and add just a little bit more utility denial, some utility play on the top floor to force the attackers to use another flash, use their Yana clone, take a little bit more time. Here, sure, I'd say, oh, but they only have the Jaeger and Wamai. But it's still a Jaeger, and it's still a Wamai playing behind a shield with reinforcements, and still a tricky position to deal with.
So for Gaimin Gladiators, they don't have any range hard breach, just the Maverick. So best case scenario is
that's a good
they
point.
go for a rush. Yeah, they have to open up bar stock, get a kill, and then probably walk through Fireplace and bottom blue to get a rush to work off. That's really the only option I see here for Gaimin Gladiators. Kind of selling themselves a bit short here, but again, that element of surprise, that instant aggression that did favor Gaimin Gladiators once, so it could potentially work again, especially if Elyssar have no idea someone's pushing in from the basement.
They're staking a lot on that, and if they want to go to a more normal clear later on, they have a lot of nades and not a lot of clear. 2 smokes, 5 flashes, and sure, some gods and some other, you know, miscellaneous utility. But not having those X-Kairos to open up the panel that Inrio is playing behind makes things a lot more tricky, and you really have to pin a lot on making the most of that utility play. We see 2 players now all going over to that window, but as Jolton starts, or I thought he was moving up for a second, but never mind, he was actually outside. That one is my bad. But I've yet to see really a cohesive strategy coming out from Gaimin Gladiators, at least one that justifies not bringing that Hibana. We see a couple over outside a library and a couple just poking and prodding at these entrances, but nothing solid, and now over half the round is gone.
Roam clear not dealt with. Not even a single attempt of throwing out some flashes just yet either, allowing more of those magnets and Legion goo mines to build up over time. Sykes holding a very passive angle, not doing a singular thing, and Arrow losing a lot of their HP. Someone who allowed that opening pick to favor Gaimin Gladiators is now in a very weak position to go for a gunfight, and the same thing can be said for Sykes, as Giddy tried to outduel him here. Neither one coming out on top just yet, but this could really go either way. Oh, I thought they were looking at each other for a second, but no, I've been wrong. They're locked between a concrete wall, but across the map, Kento gets the opening duel. Elyssar take the lead now.
I'm going to say Giddy probably is going to blink, or Sykes does. See who ends up getting the kill. So far, whatever Gaimin Gladiators wanted to go for, it's not working. And I said earlier, they were pinning their hopes on this utility clear. They're pinning their hopes on, well, Giddy not getting a kill, but he takes down Jolton, and Sykes cleans it up, but he's still low HP alongside Arrow as well. Both the Sledge and the Lion, 1 bullet away from death, and your guy at full HP is the Planter, who, when he hops in the window, will not have his gun up, and you're going to have to rely on 2 people, both 1 bullet away from death, to try and get your second round on the board. See if they can make it work. But does Elyssar retain a lot of map control? Even covering the plant is something that is difficult. Getting it down entirely, well, that's something very different. Young Alec holding library stairs as one comes on in. Kento with a 3-piece takes down Sykes and Arrow with the same spray, and Vivid, never fully cleared, out of stock, just peeks out and makes it 1-1 for Elyssar.
And don't get me wrong, let's say we had more volatility by Elyssar on just the roam game in the bottom floor. I could imagine that not being a horrible place for Sykes to hold, but your Sledge, that's where the problems start to lie in, because if you still want to go for that top floor clear, the vertical pressure is one of the main reasons why you want to go for that top floor clear, yet having your Sledge, someone who A, has the ability for that soft destruction, and B, somebody with grenades, to sit in the bottom floor and pretty much do nothing except die at some point, it just does not sit well with me. And I feel like for Gaimin Gladiators, they were really relying on getting that opening kill as a win and just ignoring the top floor and just rushing into sight and playing for a simplistic trade game. But because Elyssar won that opening gunfight and because nobody was playing in bar, everything just went south for Gaimin Gladiators, and that was just one of the main reasons why Elyssar just kind of took the round with really a very basic setup on that second round.
And having players in isolated positions is not really something Elyssar are in particular known for. Sometimes on Chalet, you know, we might see one player on specifically bar and gaming, like playing inside of office or playing alone inside of kitchen. Coincidentally, sometimes that tends to be the Aruni. But nobody from Elyssar was really stationed in that area. They were pretty focused on holding the site and holding the extensions they made. And even if there was somebody over there, Gaimin Gladiators weren't pushing that area at all, so maybe just hoping they'd get that stock player. Who knows what happens. But going into this one, Elyssar will try Master Bedroom and Office. Sort of, though, especially now, the white whale of sites on Chalet. Something that you try to get a win on, but never really ends up coming to fruition, unfortunately.
It's just a lot to worry about for the defense normally. Same thing can be said for the attack as well, though. All right, Arrow. Maybe they're going to want to hold an upside-down repel angle at some point. I don't know why they just broke the Talon Shield, but okay. Maybe something I just don't know. But Gaimin Gladiators looks like they want to go for more of a solar take. Again, they have the Nomad for the flank watch and the anti-runout. That can then also apply some extra pressure on the big window. And then later on, if they want to as well, they could maybe have someone solo push in through Office Story, which is what Jolteon, is opting to go for. But that's what Case. If Jolteon dies, that's a pretty big blunder in the hands of Gaimin Gladiators, but I think it looks like he's trying to get that opening pick, and it works out to be a success.
Well, at the same time, it's also a big gamble for Elyssar, getting a bit aggressive too early on Office Balcony. Seems like a lot of things have gone wrong for Elyssar, as a minute gone and 3 bodies all dropped to the floor. Jolton said, okay, well, this is fine. I'll just move in, get the bomb down. No worries, Beastly, you hold trophy stairs. He can probably find the remaining 2 defenders, both snaking their way up. Kento works his way past, but it's only for just 1 more second for Young Alec, or as opposed to Young Alec. 2 rounds now for Gaimin Gladiators, and round number 3, that was a far cry from their previous one.
And once again, the element of surprise there for Gaimin Gladiators. Nobody was aware somebody was late pushing top of main balcony. That was a free kill for Jolton. And at some point, I think we had Gaimin Gladiators have the Ayana hop in through bathroom window and just get piano control as well. So really, Elyssar just had no idea as to what Gaimin Gladiators were trying to attempt on that attacking round. And they were just able to win their gunfights and have total site control in a 5 versus 2. Heading back into Dining Room, the exact same storyline kind of happened here, with Gaimin Gladiators getting the first 2 opening kills, almost immediate top floor pressure, besides Kento, who was essentially stuck in closet with a couple ADSs and a toxic smoke. But, I mean, this is still a very dominating round here for Gaimin Gladiators, so on paper, things are looking quite well for them so far in their attacks moving forward.
Yeah, we had a very weird round number 2, but it's been consistent for round 1 and round 3, so too early to tell whether or not it's a full troll or, they just let that one get away from them. For Dining, of course, wasn't really a big problem for Gaimin Gladiators here, but mostly Elyssar sitting on the roam, They're sitting pretty. They're chilling. And then what do you know, John? Guess what happens? 2 people die in like 2 seconds. Well, not 2 seconds. It's a bit hyperbolic. But same thing that happened in round 3. Albeit a little bit differently, a little bit more creatively as well. But it was a similar pattern from what happened previously. Elyssar just losing bodies and bleeding them very early on. Here, it doesn't appear that Elyssar are going for the same play that got them their opening pick last time, so Elyssar can thank themselves for that.
Once again, the solar push coming through by Gaimin Gladiators. I mean, it's worked for them twice, so I could imagine they would want to do it a 3rd time in a row. If there was a Nitro Cell, they could have maybe found 3 potential kills, unless they were just too far away from that window on the rappel. But still, everything looks just about normal here, except the one major thing is no one's actually playing on big window. It's a bit more of a funnel by Gaimin Gladiators, but they still have enough pressure to probably hop in to solar directly and then start to flush out Kento, so everything still looks decent for them at the moment, and Arrow has actually late rotated on a big window, so that one issue I had with their push on this top floor has now been resolved.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you don't put someone on bedroom rappel, it's just like you're losing free real estate right there. It's such a powerful position. You can see so much, cut off so much. Not having somebody there, it's a little bit worrisome. A little bit of a troll. Here, not to worry about. Elyssar and Gaimin Gladiators both stagnant, at least for the previous and maybe even the subsequent 20 seconds. We're all just waiting, and, well, all 5-10 players in the lobby are waiting for somebody to make a move. Young Alec hoping the bathroom balcony player ends up giving away an angle. He'll pull off for the second. But still, nothing gained by Gaimin Gladiators, despite the abundance of positioning and angles they have at their disposal. Some utility going through, they'll only just now open up the castle barricade, so that puts Inrio and Kento in a difficult position, but a minute 50 gone? What's a couple more seconds if you can get it?
There's the opening pick. Young Alec will catch Quartz out on the west main balcony. That's your Nomad gone, and we still have Kendo on the top floor as well. Not much utility left in the pockets of Gaimin Gladiators, so all the Smoke has to do is just waste a couple more seconds, and really they've done their job almost perfectly. Jolton now is to hop in to go for a hero play. He does find that trade, but gets immediately clapped back on by Giddy, and still, the underlying problem here is that Kendo is just chillaxing inside a closet, and really no proper control has been established by Gaimin Gladiators.
They end up getting him in the end, and as the Yana vaults in, hits a runaway shot against Vivid, just immediately taking control outside of the site in the favor of Gaimin Gladiators. Young Alex starting to get aggressive, knowing that playing site with the little time remaining, or at least with the little positions they have at their disposal, might not be the most advisable. He's got to stay inside, but he probably has to take some of these angles. Ooh, spots Arrow in a little bit of a precarious position, brings it back to a 2v2, but as Beastly and Sykes are both inside a trophy, they can push in together. They can probably concentrate on one of these players and maybe pull back, play for the diffuser, but Sykes, the player behind the Hibana, takes some shots from Young Alec, falls as a result, and Beastly has to go for the kills, and there's simply not enough time to stop Young Alec from getting a 4K and stop Elyssar from getting their second round.
And no tomfoolery able to potentially give the opening win there for the attacking side of Gaimin Gladiators. We saw a much more reserved position by Elyssar. They really forced the hand of Gaimin Gladiators, and that resorted in not a lot of good communication in terms of throwing out their util at a good time to actually flush out Kento. He just wasted a lot of time. Eventually he died, but again, his job was already successful. We had the fallback by Elyssar, and with only 20 seconds left and only having to worry about direct gunfights because, again, there was no grenades, no flashes, they just had to sit in one area and remain a bit passive and really almost completely guarantee that Gaimin Gladiators had to come to them to either go for that plant or just at least try to win a gunfight to get that main advantage because things were still equalized. So a much better cleanup by Elyssar to now equalize 2-2.
We had to go back to Bar as well, which was a very solid site for them. Previously, before round 4, was the only site they had won, and they did it pretty dominantly. Albeit because Gaimin Gladiators didn't really seem to have a coherent strategy, even up until they lost the round. We were still questioning exactly what they were going for, and oddly enough, they're going for pretty much the same thing they did previously. John and I were questioning, okay, why aren't they bringing a Hibana? It's kind of very standard for this site. You'd use it to deal with the roam, very effectively deal with the Chimney player. They had it for a second, but Beastly switches to the Yana. John was hypothesizing maybe before they were going for a rush and trying to find an opening, and never presented itself. And if that's the case, how are they going to prevent that same problem from happening this time?
I really don't know. I mean, maybe they want to go for more of a top clear and then late push because they had the Ash for shields. So maybe they want to save their nades or something else. I'm not really too sure what Gaimin Gladiators have in store for us besides, of course, the Maverick just going in through Snowmobile again to maybe find some sort of cheeking opening kill. Yeah, that was a great use of the Maverick blowtorch there, and because Sykes is so close, they can just immediately open this wall now that the metal parts of it have been destroyed, so they can enter the basement floor, and because there is a heavier presence by Elyssar inside of Garage and kind of the rooms around it, this could actually gift an opening kill for Gaimin Gladiators, but we've got that team cohesion. Sykes will still outduel Kento and finds yet another. Gaimin Gladiators, they're already in the 5 versus 3. Those are the kills they needed to go for this rush potentially.
Yeah, but ironically enough, it's because Elyssar played into it. The whole problem last time was Gaimin Gladiators were pushing in through basement, trying to open up the stock wall, and nobody from Elyssar took the bait. Nobody bought into it. This time, they put 2 players down below, and sure, Vivid gets aggressive on the site, but he's put into a position that he didn't need to if we didn't have those players down below. And honestly, even then, if you want to have them, it was still a misplay on the part of Giddy and Kento. Kento whiffing and not able to finish off Sykes, and then Giddy peaks a little too late, and that gave Sykes the opportunity to flick and take down the Legion. So I'm not convinced that that was the strategy for Elyssar, especially considering it was a change from how they won the previous round, but even then the execution was sloppy. Now it's only a 2v3 thanks to Young Alec and Vivid, to be fair.
Now moving up in a library. Nitro gets tossed out by Vivid. That gives a little more time for Young Alec to position himself better. But if we have Sykes win this gunfight here, it's going to have to be a retake by Young Alec, and that's exactly what happens. A third now for the Sledge, and Young Alec isn't that 1 versus 3. Gets rid of Sykes eventually, but a post-plant position is definitely imminent, but now it's only a 1 versus 1, Carter. We could actually see this be a redemption round win for Elyssar. The plant will go down, and Beastly can sit outside, but no grenades in the pocket. A couple of drones for intel, but is he expecting this run out? It'll be a quick attempt by Young Alec, but he falls back down the hatch, re-entering the site directly. He could maybe go for a mudroom toss out, has an impact grenade tossed. It's not going to connect on Beastly. He's too far away, and it's going to be an easy cleanup there for Beastly, giving Gaimin Gladiators a 3rd round. But like you and I have both mentioned now, I felt like that had to do with more or less Elyssar falling for the bait rather than them actually doing anything over the top.
I mean, you could tackle it 2 different ways, and I pretty much summed it up during the round itself. One, previously Elyssar didn't really have many bodies down below. There was Giddy. He was in that area, but it wasn't as concentrated as it was in that round by Elyssar. They were all pretty much playing upstairs, and even then, it still took a long time for Gaimin Gladiators to even clear Giddy out. But this time, Elyssar like, okay, let's do it in the early round. Let's try to stop them from entering in through basement. Let's go for it. One, there's not a lot they can really do in basement. They can open the stock wall. That is true. But beyond that, they don't really have much. You still have the players up top that can still very effectively dispatch anybody moving in through the site. Second, sure, you can still go for that play. Okay, whatever. It was still a bit of a misplay in terms of timing. Maybe, honestly, Kento, probably if he hits those shots, it ends up being at least a different early round. Who knows if it ends the same way. But I'm still not entirely convinced Elyssar needed to go that way. I say all that, though. They're still on a good stretch to go 3-3 on Chalet defense. And that is not at all a bad thing. So I might have harped on them for how they took and how they handled that second attempt at bar. But to be perfectly frank, even with that round loss, if they could win this one, they're still very good going into the next half.
And we know how deadly Elyssar can be on this roam potential too, so having the entire map to play with, this does definitely look quite swell for them. And luckily that Kaid Electroclaw is actually able to get both the walls electrified. So we are going to have to see a clear on that top floor most likely, or at least a grenade tossed into the single window directly above that double wall to destroy it, and then allow that main wall to be opened up here for the offense. But if they're not aware where exactly this K-Glock could be, maybe let's go for a default Maverick trick instead to just not have to worry about it perhaps.
Jolton will retreat for the time being after putting some of that Maverick torch into the main wall. Probably open it up at this point. Wouldn't be too surprised. Very easy. Just open it up. Bam. You can go away. Don't worry about it. Focus on other parts of the map. In this case, clearing out the roam. Kind of like we talked about, or the desk talked about on Theme Park, how a lot of their sites are really made by the roam or defined by the roam. Basement's a similar story. How well you can roam, how much time you can waste, how many kills you can get, really ends up defining whether or not this round is a success or a cataclysmic failure. Minute 10 seconds gone, so it's too early to call one way or the other. But Elyssar have done a fairly good job wasting time. They're slowly retreating, not letting themselves get bogged down against Gaimin Gladiators, though it might change very soon. As Sykes moves into the bottom floor, Inrio is playing close by, so he does have to be careful for anybody that is on floor number 1.
I think they have detected Inrio. Potentially not. Oh, now they've guaranteed it at that point. They know he's in the middle of fireplace. Almost gets wallbanged, but can thankfully dodge that. So, still the 5 versus 5. Gaimin Gladiators looking to go for more of a wine push rather than the actual snowmobile take. Instead, they break open the Electroclaw off the back wall, so they open up that long line of sight for coverage, just to deny anybody playing near connector, perhaps, and they still need to open up that back wine wall to actually go for that default plant. But still having this roam game alive and well, that could be an issue, because having to worry about both the flank and also the site itself, definitely too much to handle here in the final 50 seconds, and now they are in a 5v4 as well, Carter.
Yeah, Young Alec very, very nicely taking courts off the chessboard for the moment, and Elyssar still have pretty much full control of the site. Sure, they're needing to use some utility. Sure, Gaimin Gladiators have opened up some angles, but Giddy can hold blue with that C4 and with the angle he have. They also have players in connector who can swing out and deal with the planter or the coverage, as Jolton from that spot can only really watch one angle. They might be able to work on it and still get the kill, but Sykes effectively shuts him down. 2 for him so far, and that player inside of blue, Giddy, not at all as impactful as it could have been. Arrow also watching the late flank, takes down Kento, but young Alec has been the biggest thorn in the side for Gaimin Gladiators this round. He continues to be successful, misses some important shots onto the player in Big Garage, but a nice transition onto Jolton gives him a 3K for the round so far. One player pulled back, but the other one everyone's in the win for Young Alec right now, and unfortunately appears at the exact wrong time. 4-2 for Gaimin Gladiators. Could have been better for Elyssar, but again, not terrible on Chalet.
And Gaming, or at least for Sykes on the side of Gaimin Gladiators, able to find the golden opportunity, find a couple of kills, completely changing how that round was supposed to play out there, because we had Elyssar still in the roam game. They had a good chance of going on that flank potential, although there was sufficient coverage by the Gladiators. They had the man advantage at the very least, so they should have had a bigger presence able to stop the plant from being attended by Gaimin Gladiators. Yet again, the beautiful coverage by Sykes, it stopped that from being an issue. And once we were in that post plant, it was just a retake that was required by Elyssar. And again, we had that actual rotate denial in the hands of the offense, so there really wasn't much for Elyssar. They kind of had their hands tied, and it was up to Young Alex to kind of go big and win the 1vx during a post plant. So that was a very well, I guess, a methodical push out completely by Gaimin Gladiators. And you would think on the offense you'd be the one having your hand forced there, but no, it was the other way around apparently in round number 6.
Yeah, Sykes did a very good job covering as well. 2 kills for him, single-handedly. Of course, it was a team effort, but Sykes definitely head and shoulders above the rest when it came to the impact. Again, 4-2 half for Elyssar, not the worst thing in the world. They'll go to their attacks, and, well, what do you know? First sight, bar and dining. Who would have thought? Who would have thought on Chalet that the best site for the defense ends up being the first? By the way, we didn't mention this, but Mira unbanned in this match, and as we mentioned, I believe last week, but nobody ended up playing it, so it didn't matter. But on Bar and Dining, Mira can make specifically the extension you employ on this site, have somebody playing behind Chimney with those Wamais and those ADSs, though they only have the ADSs this time. It can make it a lot easier to hold and take fights with the players outside of Library.
So with the fact we do not have that Wamai and Jaeger combination, just one of them, that could maybe allow for a better roam potential, perhaps, maybe more aggression out by the Gladiators. They still have the Mira and a couple of pieces of util like those ADSs and a singular shield, so it's not like they're all just relying on a roam game. They still want to hold this extension relatively normally, but if they need to get aggressive, if they need to work a pick, if they need to do something a little atypical, they've got that option, especially for someone like Sykes, who's already across the map, kind of playing near the trophy stairs. If they still want to go for more of that standard push leading in from the office wall to get rid of that blue shield, they've got that element of surprise to worry about in the hands of Sykes, because he has not been dealt with just yet. And I don't even think Elyssar is aware a roam is currently abrupt by this Melusi player.
Now, and that's something they'll have to be careful about, is they're so focused on taking down those players on Library, on Chimney. It's always the players like Sykes just playing down inside of Dining, just waiting for his moment to shine. It ends up catching the attack completely off guard and throwing things all out of whack and all out of proportion. But oh, look at this. Not going to happen. Or, well, it still might happen, but it's unlikely because of the drone that Kento has watching the Melusi. So where we were worried that Elyssar might get a bit too hasty with their clear, no. They are well aware of the player playing a bit away from the rest of his teammates, and they're saying, we're just focusing on this right now, then we'll turn our attention over there in due time. That does still mean they have to clear out Jolton, they have to clear out Arrow, and only now do we see utility coming in that's making Jolton's life a little bit more difficult.
They have the shield actually popped up in Mezzanine to help the mirror window player, so Arrow might be forced to fall back a bit earlier than expected. Besides that, though, everything still looks relatively normal. No death just yet. And I think the mirror window has been destroyed, as Vivid is nowhere in sight. Quartz getting that opening kill. And now the Gladiators actually have the man advantage here. Still holding the top floor. Nope. They finally actually go for the fallback. But still, having the man advantage for that anchor conversion, definitely not a bad sign whatsoever here for the defense.
No, not at all whatsoever. They can pull back. They can go back towards the side, play a lot easier. And sure, Elyssar know about Sykes. They're aware for him. With only 40 seconds left, they have to decide, do we want to send somebody over? Do we just want to have somebody watching the back? Do we just want to go and hope for the best? Well, now Jolton's joining him as well, actually, so they are weakening the site presence a little bit, but now Jolton instead will drop down and likely move up the library stairs to put some pressure on to the twitch of Young Alec playing this position. You can see him coming up right now. Young Alec, he's aware this could be a possibility. He's aware this might happen, but oh, he misses the shots on Arrow. It's not the alibi, but now Arrow and Jolton in this area. And Elyssar are struggling to convert onto the site in the 2v4 now. Giddy on 1 HP. He makes easy fodder for Jolton. Never mind, that was Kento. But Giddy, he still has to jump down. He's still got to convert. He can put Quartz to 1 HP, but now they're only on equal footing, and he won't even take that chance. 5-2 for Gaimin Gladiators as they win their first defense with beautiful play.
And as well for Elyssar, it took them way too long to actually clear out such a minimalistic defense extension on that top floor. Don't get me wrong, they still had the ADSs. There was a mirror window in play too, but compared to what you normally see, like having the Aruni, Wamai, the Jaeger, that is far less, especially with a Habana on the board that can immediately break that actual window, that one hard wall protruding in through mezzanine. It just seemed like no one was really that proactive in the round until things were just far too late to actually bring that back as a victory. We saw constant crossfires, and one thing to note by Gaimin Gladiators is they didn't overstay their welcome on the top floor. Once they got the opening pick and there were 50 seconds left, they all fell back to hold anchor positions, and they just had several people watching the exact same line of sight, and it forced Elyssar to be in a losing position almost from the get-go just because of how they played that round from start to finish.
That's exactly what we want to see from Gaimin Gladiators. Not only able to get that entry, which is just, if there's like, if we have a spectrum where the bottom tier of it is making the same mistakes you made last week, not getting those entries, not trading things out, and the top is getting the entry kill and it not getting traded out, they were all the way at the other end. They were at the top. They got that entry. They immediately fell back. They played it as well as they could, as perfectly stated by John, and that's what we needed to see going into their defense, is to make sure they don't let this lead slip away. Elyssar will take a tactical timeout, and we'll see how much they can do with this. It'll be good. Well, assuming that they actually end up making some improvements, because Gaimin Gladiators, sure, it's a different site, but it's still going to be an extension of the top floor, and as there is an extension, there are people off the site that you could try to isolate with utility and positioning to get a first pick and force Gaimin Gladiators to make some of those mistakes they made in the last week. I obviously don't know what they discussed in the timeout. For all I know, they could have discussed, well, just keeping the vibes up. But it's still something we should be careful for, and something we should look at as they try to clear out this row.
With no wall denial, though, we could potentially see a rather light clear on this top floor, only opening up the wall leading into office and just having a couple long angles being held. That way there's no one to play for vert for that plant denial. Then everyone but one or two people move a floor lower. They get the dining wall opened up as well, and they try to go for a default plan, just holding a couple of common angles. But they have to have the coordination completely on spot, essentially. And the coordination in general by Elyssar in this matchup has been a little weak on some rounds, in particular the last one where we had Vivid just doing a whole lot of nothing on the Habana, and he was the most crucial role. And I think we got to see this for a moment, pardon Carter, but the run out being prepped here, yep, it's going to happen, and it completely throws Alec in a spur, essentially. He's the first one to die, and already this roam clear has not worked out at all, Carter.
Again, a bit of a risky play, but then again, it's taking advantage of some common logic. You see a barricade that's castled, and you say, oh, that's going to be solid. Sure, I can't get through it, but my enemies can't either. Gaimin Gladiators say, yeah? Well, guess what? We prepped it. Now we're jumping out. Now bathroom, balcony, completely gone. Nullified position. Great play by Gaimin Gladiators to, again, as we said last time, not just compensate for the mistakes they made previously, or in the previous week, but completely overcorrect in a good way, I suppose, correct the exact amount you would want them to make some plays to actually get those entries, get those advantages, and make it difficult for Elyssar, or the attack in this case, to continue through the map. As well, as you can see, they're pushing into piano. They're finally using some utility, but they're now just dealing with Gaimin Gladiators' positions. We still have Sykes behind a shield, still have Arrow playing inside of Owl, and Kento might be able to get a kill, but if Arrow falls back, all they'll get is even.
And there we have it. Your worst fears have actually turned into reality, as we've had the fallback by everybody but Jolton, and he will now follow suit. Vivid lands a clean one, though, on a Beastly. The man advantage back, and yeah, that was a beautiful shot right behind the bomb chassis. Still, though, having to worry about this general site presence. We've got Quartz with 3 smoke grenades, and only now has the vertical gone down. We could potentially still see this actual plant denial reign true, because there is not a lot of time left here for Elyssar to clap back, despite that they do have this man advantage.
Arrow trying to get aggressive through those floorboards, but both Giddy and him miss the shots they want to take. Kento, he's hitting them today. Arrow looking up at the ceiling or trying to reload, ends up falling to the Yana. 3K for Kento so far. Now Jolin's got to hightail it back to the site, and the advantage Gaimin Gladiators had early on, completely nullified and erased by the late round. Beautiful recovery by Elyssar, even with getting taken off guard outside of bathroom window. Didn't matter. They recovered beautifully.
Losing the opening duel, but still wanting to commit to clearing out the entire top floor. I think they just wanted to go work a pick, because if they didn't clear out the top floor entirely and they were at a deficit, it was just going to be more angles held by Gaimin Gladiators in comparison to Elyssar. And we saw a round on Bar and Gaming where that was the overall storyline, and that outcome did not favor Elyssar in the slightest. So still winning a lot of critical gunfights, forcing everybody to retreat with still 70 seconds to get that vertical down. and weaken that overall pressure in the site, I mean, it allowed Elyssar to kind of get away with robbery. They stole that round essentially from the pockets of Gaimin Gladiators because they really started out in such a strong way and really had everything going for them until we saw that bounce back in the rebuttal by Elyssar.
Going down to basement, for all we know, maybe a great late round is not enough for Gaimin Gladiators to succeed on a basement defense. They've had a good job making some plays early on, tip the scales a little bit, put their finger on it, and then run back to the site and force Elyssar basically to clear out the map when everyone is already up and gone home. This go around, maybe it's not as safe of a strategy. We'll see how Gaimin Gladiators adapt. They're still going for something a little bit more structured, using these castle barricades to create avenues for the attack that they're forced to go down, are forced to use time and utility to end up destroying. They have the sledge, but might not be in a position to use that sledgehammer. We'll see if that's enough to keep the roam alive a little bit longer, or if it's just a very slight obstacle in Elyssar getting what they want.
This one will be a wall already being opened up here for the attack of Elyssar. And just a whole lot of silence. We still have that big garage being slowly encroached on, I believe, by Elyssar, just droning it out, making sure no one is that well overextended. They spot out that one of the two walls actually stops, so maybe a longer angle can be held by the defense. But so far for the offensive side of Elyssar, Giddy is going to actually win against Sykes, utilizing those Maverick holes through the snowmobile wall. That's a huge start here by Elyssar, and that's only the beginning of their attack. They still want to push in through big garage, but Jolton picks the literal perfect moment. No one there for the trade because the Habana was still up near the hillway on that snow part. So Jolton now getting hyper aggressive, could maybe find more than just that one kill, but now getting pushed out through the soft garage wall. He has to completely fall back, his back turned, and young Alec will get that refrag, keeping the man advantage in the favor of Elyssar.
Yeah, that's sort of the issue with the play Jolton went for. I think in terms of the short term, I mean, I'd understand going for it, not even saying he was unjustified in taking what was, as you said, a free one. But once you work yourself in that position, it just so happens everyone from Elyssar was in a position to rotate around big garage and constrict you, force you to stay in that position, and if you rotate out, you're going to take a lot of damage, but probably end up dying. So Jolton ends up going 1-for-1, probably not even intended. Thought he might be able to get away, and that Kenta was alone, but it was all for naught. Most importantly, though, John, Arrow still has this hatch upstairs, and Elyssar have to push in and go clear him. As young Alec goes, he needs to win this fight to make the execute for Elyssar that much easier. He pulls off in just a second, but his Arrow takes damage from not down below, from in trophy as well. They succeed, and we can probably expect an execute pretty soon.
Yeah, great team play by both young Alec and Giddy, now denying that hatch pressure you were just mentioning, Carter, leaving this to be a much more linear take by Elyssar. I mean, in theory, they could also utilize that hatch once they get the plant down for great coverage, forcing a flank/rotate on that top floor to have them by the defense, and that would really be almost impossible because of the fact they're in this 2 versus 4.
Still waiting right now. Ooh, Giddy peeks out, loses a little bit of his HP to Quartz. Still, nothing to write home about for Gaimin Gladiators right now. They've peppered Inrio, Young Alec, and Giddy all down to below or just slightly above 50. They can still cover this effectively just by sheer numbers. As Vivid hops on in, nobody can really counter this by Gaimin Gladiators, not by utility or positioning. Beastly had a C4, but it missed, and Quartz gets a kill, but that does not stop the bomb going down as he peeks. Vivid's back is turned, but Inrio trades it out, goes 1-for-1, at least in terms of who dies and who wins. But Giddy upstairs is the difference maker. Young Alec's efforts early on to clear out that dining position worthwhile, as it basically doesn't save, but it makes that post plant a lot easier to win.
And we didn't see an overextension by Elyssar either when they were trying to go in for the site push. They knew somebody was in blue and the other one was in connector, so with the fact they could just hop in through the side wine wall and go for the default plant, they didn't need to directly enter wine itself except for the person going on that plant. They just had to hold the long angle to stop anybody pushing from connector. And then your blue player, they have to walk in through that line of sight, which is almost a guaranteed death. They rotated later in the round to play for the vertical, again, forcing that reposition in an uncomfortable manner by Gaimin Gladiators. So really, once the hard destruction was confirmed by Elyssar, there was nothing stopping them from getting that plant down and just having a pristine condition to just burn out the timer and get another round on their attack. But still, Gaimin Gladiators, they have a couple of rounds to bleed, but that is slowly changing as we move into round number 10, of course.
Bar worked out very well for them, of course, on the back of this Mira setup and, well, the Jaeger setup upstairs, though Elyssar spent a lot of time, maybe, I guess, trying to counter it. Really, again, kind of similar to Gaimin Gladiators, we're really struggling to see the true potential and the true scope of what Elyssar were going for, and ended up resulting that even though they had good intel on the player and the stakes inside a chimney, and even Sykes playing across the map from his team, it didn't end up mattering in the end, as Gaimin Gladiators were able to effectively repel them off for the most part. Here, LSR still have a lot of the right tools for the job. Plenty of nades, Zofia, a Hibana to put pressure on the chimney player, but just like last time, they had similar tools, but they failed to make it work.
Yeah, the proactivity here was very underwhelming for Elyssar. They need to immediately set their mind on getting this util clear established and then slowly rotating around to get that multifaceted approach. We've got both Giddy and Kento with the grenades here to potentially deal with the mute early on, and with only having ADSs, this could be done pretty effectively. Yeah, an instant kill for Giddy, once again finding yet another opening duel as a success. Quartz now gone, a lot of pressure alleviated from the side of Library, but still, having Arrow and Jolton playing in tandem with one of those two defenders on a mirror window, it's not completely over just yet, and as things turn into a 4-on-4 via the refrag by Sykes, we're not going to see the immediate aggression work out just yet for Elyssar if they want to attempt it.
And important for Elyssar, they got Quartz, the player who got the opening kill last time, stopped Enrio on the entry, but now we're just seeing Gaimin Gladiators play this defense the way it's meant to be played. Once they start entering Library, you get aggressive. There is one player outside of Office Balcony, though, and that's something that Gaimin Gladiators do need to worry about, though actually, right as I say that, he drops down to main lobby, so now playing for the cutoff in case Jolton vaults over the railing and goes down below. That puts a lot of the burden on the players outside of Library, mainly Kento and Giddy, who both have lost their nades. They can't really go for that clear all that well anymore, and they've got to full rotate to something else.
If they just had somebody go West Main Balk, I feel like they could have dealt with Arrow on that one mirror window next to the hatch drop, but I guess they're not going to need it. Giddy is going to catch Sykes, so the man advantage back for Elyssar as the Sledge will find a second kill, and now this top floor presence is going to have to consider whether they want to fall back and help out the anchor game, or still try to sit up here, because they know how important this pressure can be, especially inside of Library, but again, having this advantage, you really have to make your position count, because at any given moment, Elyssar could strike, and they could just play the numbers game on you.
An important thing, talking in terms of numbers, Elyssar have no drones. Literally zero. They have a Gemini replicator, and that is it for the utility they can get. Giddy has managed to work wonders off positioning, continues to do so, the only one doing anything in this round so far, or doing it successfully, but they're still operating off of no intel with that Gemini replicator gone. Arrow can catch Vivid off guard outside of the double window. That's Diffuser on the floor with one in the lobby. Arrow with a beautiful shot or a beautiful spray onto Kento. This is the problem. They're operating blind, but they're just barely making it by the skin of their teeth. Beastly, he's got to hold out. Only 20 seconds. Elyssar dedicating some time to reviving Vivid, but Inrio up above shuts him down. Somehow, Elyssar, again, operating off of pure instinct and pure sight in the moment, somehow come away with it despite the odds.
And not going in for the, I guess, just default clear. They didn't apply all that much pressure in a Library, except in the beginning part of the round where Giddy got the opening kill on Quartz, so they didn't have to worry about dying off the rip by a mute player getting hyper-aggressive in Library, but they just sat outside of the building for a good chunk of that round. Eventually they got aggressive, hopping in through, I believe, the single window in through Fireplace, or at least Giddy was holding a cutoff angle for that roam game because they expected Sykes to have that exact same playstyle that he did from the previous time we saw Bar in play by Gaimin Gladiators. So they got a good read on how Gaimin Gladiators want to perform on that round. A bit of a overcommitment on that top floor, I suppose. Not an overcommitment because it's required, but not being able to rotate in the lower floor quick enough. That was the biggest issue via Gaimin Gladiators, and then Elyssar just kind of had the man advantage, and despite the fact they had really no information to work off of, they just had the man advantage, and they were able to refrag every which way.
Also, again, just shout out to Giddy, doing the most for Elyssar in opening that entire thing up. Inrio got a couple kills on the board, but really, that was mainly the Giddy show, just somehow bringing that back, again, with no drones left to work with. Now we'll see how they can make it work on Dining. They've managed to win every other site other than Bar. So this is looking very good for Elyssar, able to nullify the one advantage Gaimin Gladiators had in the site selection and how they want to set things up or decide things going into the next round. Elyssar will start over by Library this time, and I doubt Gaimin Gladiators are looking to get too aggressive, especially based on how the overall trend of their defenses have gone so far.
First 30 seconds off the board, and we've got Elyssar still gathering plenty of viable information and still going for more or less the same clear they have attempted a couple of times beforehand. This time, though, young Alec is going to die early on, not via a funny run-out play from a castle barricade. No, it's an impact grenade run-out from Big Garage that Max D is going to highlight, and young Alec was just not quick enough to react. and one of your main fraggers is already dead. Gaimin Gladiators take that lead, and they've got a perfect amount of intel to know how exactly you're going to want to push this, as there's a yokai in the middle of Fireplace just pinging everybody to indicate how Gaimin Gladiators need to readjust to stop this push from the office side.
The spot's so obvious, Elyssar likely will not check it, because there's a default cam in there. Who's going to put another yokai? One that can't even go invisible, just dead in the middle of the ceiling. Well, in this case, it's Gaimin Gladiators, and it will likely work to their advantage for the good majority of this round, unless somebody from Elyssar just happens to spot it and get lucky in that facet. They're still going forward with their top floor clear, though, because Gaimin Gladiators might have intel on what they're doing, but it's not like Elyssar are doing anything crazy, and just this default play is working out pretty well. They'll push Arrow back, though he'll just end up taking a longer angle, and Elyssar need to start clearing out this shield. Sykes goes out from behind it. He might be blind, but this nade is not going to find him. He can play close, but as he swings, he's on ADS. But no, it results in the death of Kento, and it's all Gaimin Gladiators as Jolton, and aided by Elyssar, have a very successful roam as he rotates back with a minute left.
Gideon and Enrio, the last two alive now. They can, of course, recover the case, but that was such a misinput, I guess, by Elyssar. I guess Vivid getting a little bit too close to Giddy as they were going in for that swing together, but that completely changes almost any chance, I suppose, for Elyssar to bring this round back as a win. They really are not in a prime position. The only thing working out for them right now is the fact that they can go for vertical, but still, the smoke and echo on the board, there really is no chance they can go for a plant. They just have to hope they win their gunfights, really.
They've got plenty of vertical, thankfully, and Giddy, who's been on a heater this game, but especially these past couple rounds, if you just stick him in a spot, he's usually able to find a pick. Maybe it's just maybe it's a little bit of wrong thinking. Maybe I'm just going off of how successful he was last round, but if you're Elyssar, you're clinging to any kind of hope going forward. That Giddy able to get that kill, and a nice shot on the courts as well. Saw Freak get something like that earlier, and Giddy clearly feeling some kind of similar energy as he moves forward. If there's somebody watching Trophy, he's got to move down. He's got to react to Arrow, and he can't do it in time. But Enrio cuts down the low HP Jolton, but as Arrow moves forward, he goes prone. He just waits out the time, and it should be match point for Gaimin. Can Arrow spot it in time? He's going around. There we go. I was a little bit worried for a second, but he gets match point with just half a second remaining, and Elyssar have to win one more round to send us to OT.
And still, though, that coming down to a 1 versus 1 when we had a 4-on-2 for Gaimin Gladiators, way too close for comfort. And if it weren't for the fact that things were rather low in terms of time management for Elyssar, that could have definitely been around as a win for the attack. They just needed one more kill. Enrio had the rough ideas to where the castle was playing at. They just needed a couple more shots to confirm that kill, but they were on 0-0. They had to stick the plant, best case scenario, and at that point, it was just almost a guarantee that Gaimin Gladiators bring us into match point. But really close to the wire, there's still a solid chance we get to see overtime just based on the fact that Elyssar have managed to claw their way back from a huge deficit to now only being one round behind their opposition.
Big thing we saw here, Elyssar able to, albeit a little bit late, and just young Alec taking a 1, able to clear out that roam, retain hatch control, so even though there was some bit of fight by Gaimin Gladiators on the site, once the bomb went down, they were still in a very good position to play that post plant and to play the rest of that round out. It's the same setup coming out from Gaimin Gladiators, reinforcing inside of dining, trying to hold that as long as they can alongside those castle barricades to delay even more time and to deny some sight lines for Elyssar, who are also, by the way, bringing 2 separate hard breachers, so I'm interested to see if they're just trying to be redundant in case Vivid or Enrio go down, or if they're trying to create some uncertainty in the mind for Gaimin Gladiators as to where exactly they're coming from.
We don't have just Arrow this time on the extension near dining room. He's got a bit more backup by Jolton. Still have those castle barricades, though, to cut off a couple of angles here. Potentially interested to see if we're going to have Elyssar immediately win this gunfight by someone over-swinging near the snowmobile wall. I would hope not, because just Elyssar having that man advantage so early in the round did give them a lot of leeway when they wanted to go in for the reposition, when they went in for that wine take, and it did allow for multiple people to just flush out Arrow by himself, guarantee that hatch position for the post plant, and like I mentioned when we saw the round kind of fold out and end in towards the post round, make it pretty much impossible for Gaimin Gladiators to recover in that 2v4.
Nobody biting just yet for Elyssar on the roam, still getting a basic setup, doing some very light hard breaching on various parts of the map. Inrio opening an angle on Garage, some X-Kairos being used as well. But there's Giddy with that first kill, prone on the floor in Trench. Ooh, what a tight shot through the hole in the wine wall, finding Beastly inside of blue. Now he'll open that castle barricade, and part of the wall is already open for them. They might be able to make this work as they move on forward, but there still is the roam to deal with. They've done some of the work on the site, but you can't let those 1 or 2 players upstairs just go for free.
And at 30 now, Elyssar beginning to transition their way into the bottom floor once again, but they've got to think at least somebody's up here on this first floor. It's not just Arrow this time. Sykes and also the Jaeger player of Jolted are here to back up as well, potentially. So we could definitely see that Hatch now be more prominent in this round, especially since it's going to be a lot more effort by Elyssar to actually clear out this first floor completely.
Sykes and Arrow haven't even really had to do much work. They've just been chilling inside of dining, waiting, saying, hey, you can come clear us. We've got this utility. We're fine if you clear it out. That's what it's for. They're still just doing their thing. As Elyssar heavily focusing on the site, they'll open up one of the walls to the site. It's now gone, but Inrio's lost a lot of HP. As the ADS is being burned, there's not a lot of time left, and Quartz not only dodges that nade, but it gets a kill onto the Maverick as well. All his utilities destroyed, but he can set up some more up. Some of those magnets he's kept in stock. Giddy with his second of the round, again, continues to be the saving grace for Elyssar as he gets 3 despite the spray layering into his body. Jolen's got to play retake in a 1v4 once again, but this one is looking a little bit too daunting. 2 players, or 1 player on the hatch, 2 players down, make that 3 all up now with the bomb on the floor. He's got to get this kill as he goes forward. Nice flick onto Vivid. There's still 3 bodies he's got to worry about, and he can't get the angle on Young Alec in time. 2 games today, 2 OTs as well. Definitely a close one on Playday 3.
Absolutely. In here for the long haul today, apparently, Carter, as once again, we've got Elyssar managing to clap back against the Gladiators, and yeah, now force overtime like you had mentioned, but things really did come down to, again, the way they were just able to get those opening gunfights as a win, how they were setting themselves up. Giddy was just doing fantastic, able to gather tons of information, burn through loads of utility and general positioning as well, getting the crucial kills in order just to kind of work your way into sight. And once again, it was just another 1vx, 2vx position for the Gladiators where they just had to deal with so many long angles, had to deal with both vertical and horizontal pressure, had to deal with a plant going down. It was just too much weight on their shoulders, and eventually they collapsed. The basement site just not working out for them whatsoever, but at least they're not going to have to worry about any sites in terms of defending. They're back on the attack, so at least that's one nice thing to note, because I thought their attacks were relatively solid.
Certainly for both teams, obviously getting 4 2-halves each on the attack. Going down to bar, Elyssar, they're on the defense, sure, not the favorite side, but that doesn't mean you got to go with what you did before. Doesn't mean you got to play it the same. I don't believe, and the reason I say that is I don't believe Elyssar brought a mirror on their defenses. I'm pretty sure that was just kind of a Gaimin Gladiators thing. I might be wrong. I didn't think so though. So now they have this extra tool in their arsenal. They'll do something different. They'll bring the Jaeger and the Wamai, as all Gaimin Gladiators did. They brought the Jaeger and the mirror. That was it. Elyssar, they are dedicating almost all of the utility they have, or most of it, to this top floor hold.
Hoping that it works out for him this time. We haven't really seen the top floor as a big point of contention for Gaimin Gladiators when they have attacked this site in the past. They normally just brought out the Maverick, went for more of a bottom clear, and it worked out at least once out of 2 times, but both of us kind of falling on the part of that had to do more or less with Elyssar kind of overextending their life rather than letting the offense come to them in a vulnerable position. But this time, it's more of a standard clear on this top floor. You've got the Habana to open up that mezzanine wall, get rid of the mirror window perhaps if it's there, and still tons of general util, both the flash grenades, some smokes, and even the grenades too popped up and available to get rid of that person stacked up heavy in library, and then eventually you can deal with this mirror window. But the Twitch, did Jaeger's body block that shot? I think
I don't think he.
That I was with a complete dud, or it just Jaeger body blocked it potentially.
I don't know if he body blocked it. I think my boy just missed. I don't think he hit the shot.
So
I think he just got a little bit scary, or a little bit scared. The tough thing about Young Alec's position, it's a spot that's very easy to die in. We've actually seen quite a few players die, not only there in CL, but also Whitlock on Chimney in particular has had a rough time playing this position in CL so far. Mirror window finally popped, so that's nice. But all that utility the Gaimin Gladiators had weren't able to get a kill onto Young Alec. He goes back down to the site successfully. There's still plenty of nades, though. Only 1 expended by Gaimin Gladiators, and they still have some flashbangs and some smoke grenades as well to try and deal with the Jaeger playing behind Chimney. But not a lot of time, though. Half the round now gone, and they haven't made much progress beyond pushing Young Alec down from Library into the site. And they, again, Need to use those X-Kairos and that utility to actually get top control.
And although we have the mirror window destroyed, we're not having really any aggression by Gaimin Gladiators. They are just waiting for the final few moments to eventually enter in through Library and potentially kill Enrio. Even with Quartz holding a very interesting angle all the way through main balcony, they're just waiting for the fallback to eventually occur by Enrio, but he's just not moving a muscle right now.
He doesn't really need to. Now he can jump on out, and Jolton's sprinting towards him. Doesn't at all have to worry. That smoke might actually even help Enrio just a little bit. It actually covers his cross, blocks Quartz's line of sight, and now Enrio can get the hell out of dodge completely for free. And now Sykes will, sure, there was a magnet there. He was going to waste it anyway, but they don't know that Enrio's out of chimney. He's using util there that he doesn't necessarily need to. And now Enrio's got this cross all because of that smoke grenade that Gaimin Gladiators put down. Quartz still compounds for that early mistake by taking down young Alec, but there's only 20 seconds left. Elyssar can play upstairs and down below, but Gaimin Gladiators are doing a good work of getting the frags with the little time they have remaining. They've made it even, but there's still Enrio. He can go and play that hatch. He can hop down below if he wants. Kento too, watching Library as one watches his line of sight. He looks away. He loses the fight. Enrio too! This could still be a Gaimin Gladiators round. Beastly putting the bomb on the floor. The C4 goes out. He just barely misses the button click as Gaimin Gladiators fell the mirror and take match point.
I don't know, a bit rude, I suppose, for Beastly. Quite accurate on the remark. It was a bit of a choke there by Elyssar. They got a little too aggressive and didn't really play for the proper anchor hold, I suppose. We didn't have anyone sitting directly in blue stairs. No one immediately in the sight except for the Mira, who was out in the back of bar stock trying to go for a nitro cell play and just not having a lot of information as to where exactly that plant was going down and not having enough time to actually react there against the Gaimin Gladiators. And although we had a lot of complacency by Gaimin Gladiators, they didn't immediately enter the building. Their late round ability to just manage to win their ones, I suppose, because Elyssar was allowing them to be put in those positions. It gifted them a 3 versus 1, and all they had to do was just find out the one player's location of that mirror in the middle of bar and then just end up killing her before she can try to stop the plant from going down.
Missed opportunity by Elyssar to put themselves in a bit more of a comfortable position. Again, as I said earlier, attacks have been better for both these teams, so it's not all said and done for Elyssar just yet. But Dining wasn't exactly sure footing for Elyssar. They won it once, but the latter time, Gaimin Gladiators almost had Guidance Gaming, which is a team from years ago. The GG was making my mind do weird things. Here, Gaimin Gladiators were actually able to get aggressive in the early round, get a kill onto young Alec, and then it was a little bit easier to play the mid to... Oh no.
Oh, man.
Please tell me.
I mean, they can't call it at that point, right?
Listen.
Phase.
I'm not an admin, so I'm not going to make the call, but I can say that was on the line for where it is. We'll see if we're able to call it. Not too sure just yet. Either way, that is a very ill-timed disconnect.
Rather tragic. On one of the most important rounds in this matchup, Elyssar off the bat in a 4 versus 5. And I guess the call's being made no rehost. So they have to play in this 4v5. We might not even see 15 rounds, unfortunately, Carter. It might just end right here based off the fact that we already have Elyssar in disadvantage, unless they just, I don't know, maybe if Gaimin Gladiators get overconfident, overpeak a bit, like we saw Elyssar do last round, then maybe that could be the moment of redemption. But for now, things are already not looking good for the attack.
That is actually so tragic. That might be the worst time disconnect I've ever seen. That was like, I'm pretty sure that was literally as the window closed. I'm not an admin, so I'm not going to say it, but still, that was... Honestly, that's just a tragic and potentially anticlimactic way to end the game. But hey, we'll see if Elyssar can pull it out. We've hyped up this roster, even with young Alec, Giddy, Kento, Enrio, all capable of making the most of this terrible situation. And Vivid too, but like Vivid's the leader. I'm talking about people who can get explosive, get aggressive, and get some of these kills. So, I mean, John, they still have a chance based on what's happening?
Well, it's possible. I mean, we have seen them come back from 4v5s, especially on the dining room attack, where they just had to fully commit. They had actual good util usage, and were able to force Gaimin Gladiators to completely fall back down in through Solar / Trophy Stairs, pardon. But then we saw the exact same thing be attempted by Elyssar, and they heavily flubbed their util timing and their general coordination, which allowed Gaimin Gladiators to contend this top floor and still have the man advantage. So really, it's still a toss-up between Elyssar and Gaimin Gladiators as to who's going to come out on top.
Looks like Elyssar are realigning their focus to down below. It still serves to favor Gaimin Gladiators because of that earlier loss of Young Alec due to the disconnect. They can still play off these reinforcements, play close together, and Elyssar don't necessarily have the man advantage to really put themselves in advantageous positions. They can use this vertical, but do they want to put someone on that trophy window? That's somebody you could be missing as you go for an execute, or somebody that could play off these holes made by Giddy. It's a tricky situation that they're in right now on a balancing act that is nigh impossible to make work. Kento gets a kill, though. That's the slight glimmer of hope they needed. Giddy gets a second as well. There's Beastly. They're making it work, but they have to string it together. They've only got 10 seconds left. Arrow's by himself right now, but he hasn't been drone. He can catch Kento off guard, but it doesn't matter! He doesn't shoot! The mouse just doesn't click! He somehow wins it out, and now it's Gaimin Gladiators for the retake. Jolton could spot the diffuser. He takes down one. Kento falls. Giddy two, but the bomb goes on the floor. Vivid hops up. No, it's Inrio from up above. He's saving it. They might just do it. Sykes in the 1v2. Vivid's on low HP. He can still finish this one out. He can take the round that was gifted to them by God. It's the 1v1 now. But Inrio's got all the bullets he needs, 100 chances to end this round and give Young Alec the opportunity to join back. Sykes goes upstairs. He knows he's got to go for the kill. Trying to stick the defuse would basically give round 15 to Elyssar. He'll continue pushing forward. Inrio's holding. Now Sykes goes for the peek, and he ends up losing it with just a little bit of time to spare. A tragic ending to what could have been, even after the disconnect, one of the closest games of Challenger League this season.
Such a close call there for the Gaimin Gladiator, or I should say the other way around for Elyssar. We finally have the proper team cohesion, I suppose, now by the Gladiators. They beat the top team in CL, and don't get me wrong, that last round definitely was not the best way to end out the series, but still, it came down to a 1v1, and we just had the gunfight as a win out for the defensive side of Gaimin Gladiators. They'll take the victory 8-6, and things are looking slightly better for them, but man, that was just such a bittersweet ending to this series.
And again, well played to Gaimin Gladiators. I think, John, you and I mentioned, and you obviously agree, they fixed a lot of the mistakes that they had last week, and they were able to keep toe-to-toe for a good portion of that game, force Elyssar to take Gaimin Gladiators to overtime. Not something that we thought would happen today. But because of the disconnect, as I'm that kind of person, I want to take the moment and highlight Elyssar in a 4v5 pretty much demolished Gaimin Gladiators moving into the site. That is the caliber of team that we're dealing with going into the rest of the season. They might have lost Young Alec, but when it came to the clear and actually working and getting those picks, it wasn't even close for what seemed a good portion of the final 45 seconds. Still a good win overall by Gaimin Gladiators, despite towards the end they made a lot of improvements, and I'm sure the desk will have a lot more to expand upon for both Elyssar and the Gladiators.
Connor, Carter had a lot of praise for Elyssar there, but I'm willing to say that we were starting to see a bit of the cracks in the armor through this game for Elyssar.
Yeah, Gaimin Gladiators came out and played a very, very strong game. And what we've been asking for, or at least I have for so long, all season, through 3 games for GG, was for Sykes to show up. And he finally did. There were a lot of rounds that he completely opened up, just like that replay that just scrolled across your screen. He's caught in a crossfire and solo entering on Sledge into the basement and still manages to pick up 2 kills, even though he's on 10 HP for the other engagements.
One of the things you talked about before the match, Cookies, was Young Alec and that duo that he has with Kento. Now we saw a bit more of Young Alec in this match, but quite a bit less of Kento.
Yeah, we did. We saw Alec bounce back this week, unfortunately. Elyssar, it is going to be their first loss this season, and as you said, Connor, it's like they have one hell of a schedule coming up.
Yep. This is a hard weekend.
The thing is, if I'm thinking about it, I'm not even playing on the team. I'm thinking about who they're playing. I know they're thinking about it. That's all this weekend. There's no whatever. Like one of those games. What is it? Another one's today, and then one's tomorrow. It's just like, holy cow. That's gonna be a hell of a mental reset they're gonna have to hit after a tough emotional loss, such as this one, especially in the way that they just lost.
Because they should have won that round.
Even with the 45, even with the plug being pulled, they should have. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's just very. I don't want to roast Enrio, but he probably should have just hit the corner a little bit longer.
Okay, but the thing is, if you looked where his crosshair was, he was looking at the hatch. They had to have some sort of intel, some sort of call. Somebody made a troll call of he's on diffuser, so he's looking to peek through instead of just, you know, Sykes being
You would
on top
hope.
of the hatch right
You
next
hope.
to him.
I hope so. Or it was just bad headphones. It was one of those things, right? But that's a big thing. Jolton. Actually, sorry. Not to cut you off, Rip. Sorry.
I was cutting you off. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Jolton. I actually liked how he was playing too on that sledge. We talk about how Sykes was hopping through and doing whatever. Jolton had that energy too on attack, and that was a huge part of the reason Gaimin Gladiators was able to take that early 4-2 lead. And wow, they won even with Quartz going 1-5 on entry. We kind of overlooked that completely. I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
The entry stats were overall, though, between the two teams, fairly even. So, although as an individual 1-5, look up Connor though, and look at those numbers by Vivid. I don't want to, rest the game on his shoulders, but look how dead even these two teams were pretty well in every facet. That .62 stands out to be the 3-11.
Yeah, and this is a rare Charles Vivid miss. Hey, most of the time he's an insanely strong player, and I've been on the record saying that he's arguably the best hard breach support IGL in all of Challenger League. But today it just wasn't it. Maybe he got the same bug that our Charles, Mr. CJ, has, where he couldn't speak out a sentence. But this time it was in the lobby, and he just couldn't get any kills.
Well, before we give Cookies another chance to stutter, I almost stuttered trying to chirp you on stuttering. That's just so embarrassing. We're going to get the interview done. I believe it's Arrow from Gaimin Gladiators. Arrow, congratulations. This is a huge win for you guys. How did you feel as a team? Because you guys were all on par with each other. You seem to have great synergy in this match.
Yeah, we were like, something that we went over before the game was like trying to work together for like an end goal, trying to like use our drones for our entries and like enable Sykes for sure. Cause like, I mean, Sykes is just an absolute animal. Like, dude's going crazy in our scrims and on game day. Like, you just love to see that. And also the clutch at the end. But yeah.
Yeah. And a map, I got to ask about Chalet as well, because this seemed like, at least from a viewer standpoint, the best map for these two teams to go to. Was this as much fun as it looked for us?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We were getting really active, especially on Alec, and like unfortunate like the last round that he lagged out. But you know, sometimes you get in favor of the rulebook and sometimes you're not. But yeah, we were really like getting active, and I thought we matched up well against them on Chalet, so that's definitely why we brought them there.
Is it a big confidence boost for your team to now go 2-1 and hand the first loss to the early leaders? Does that kind of give you guys some momentum moving forward in your stage?
Of course, like anyone that is gonna say Elyssar isn't like one of the, like the either the best team or at least top 2 right now, like in CL, is lying to your face. Like they're definitely all PL caliber players, and it's a good morale boost to beat them for sure.
Well, thanks again, Arrow, for a super entertaining match. Congratulations on that win, and hopefully we'll be talking again.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Arrow, obviously a star as well for his team today. That was a super impressive showing. I gotta say, the game played out different than we thought it would, but that was definitely, we thought it was going to be the game of the day, and it's going to be a tough one to go up against for these next 2 matches. But we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be Aqualix taking on Karn & Co. I would say a close number 2 to that one. Stick around. We'll be back in a few minutes.